Welcome to the Lowcountry Revolutionaries, the podcast that dives deep into the heart of Charleston, South Carolina's vibrant entrepreneurial scene. I'm your host, Bill Billotte, founder of Veritas Exoscience, and each week we're spotlighting the boldest innovators from the Chucktown startup community. These are the visionaries pouring their heart and soul into the businesses that are transferring Charleston into a global hub of creativity and American ingenuity. Get ready for raw, real conversations with the trailblazers shaping our city's future. Let's dive in. I would like to welcome Peter Jordan. Over the past 30 years, he's operated at the intersection of enterprise infrastructure, capital strategy, and international business development, driving revenue growth, expanding global markets, and increasing enterprise valuation. In 2025, he co-founded and launched Carolina Venture Studio, a not-for-profit 501c3 whose mission is to empower economic and social impact across South Carolina through the charitable creation and launch of technology startups. Welcome, Peter. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate being on here today.
No, it's my pleasure. So tell me all about Carolina Venture Studio. It's kind of an outgrowth from your career here. So what are you trying to achieve?
Yeah, so those are great questions. So let me provide some background, right? So one of my experiences in my career, I spent 15 years working for a venture capital firm, actually in Northern California. But since I'm migrating here to out of California to South Carolina, I have seen basically some infancy stages of the startup ecosystem that needs some help and assistance. So, formulated around some recent studies on, the emptying of rural communities, the entrepreneur spirit, where they go, how they expand, and how they can, group together. They tend to migrate towards locations that have education,
Right.
other like-minded individuals, and obviously capital. And so, based on that, this region called the PD region here in South Carolina is in basic need of just that, right? They need a tech hub, they need a tech ecosystem,
Right.
and they need some startups to start to embed themselves into the local community. So based on that, we formulated a plan um, around around accepting technology startups into our program.
Oh,
We're
cool.
going to build out a custom program for each startup. And then underneath the Venture Studio model, we will be systematically programming them and providing education to allow them to grow
Oh,
and to
cool.
basically put them in a position to launch. So that could mean building a team, building a product, and doing all the right things that need to be done so they can start to generate revenue, and then putting them in a position to be able to raise additional capital, more aligned with a seed round,
Mm-hmm.
but additional capital for growth. And it allows them to bring into the communities here in South Carolina the ability to expand, bring jobs, economic diversity, et cetera, et cetera. So
Nice.
that's really the foundational reasons for launching this, and so we're excited to get this off the ground and start to accept startups.
Wow, that sounds like a great opportunity for everybody around here, and it is kind of ironic and interesting. It's like so you worked obviously in Silicon Valley, and now you are. Maybe you don't know this, but I'm on. If you do, pardon me for telling you again. But you are now in Silicon Harbor. That is what it's
Okay.
called around here,
Yeah. Yep.
because it is one of the biggest boom of startups and entrepreneurs in the U.S. right now. And so
Mm-hmm.
you guys have come here just at the perfect time to really help
Mm-hmm.
people out. So I want to ask, 'cause so you want to get tech startups. What kind of tech covers a lot of area? Is there a specific area of tech that you guys want to focus in as far as like the venture capital part of it, and how are you going about kind of interviewing and enrolling people? What are you looking for out there?
Yeah. Excellent question. So, in our efforts to align with the state government, county governments, and city governments, we obviously have built a lot of momentum and support from those organizations, right?
Mhm.
And so at the state level, the Department of Commerce, if you were to go to their website, they list about 30 industry sectors that they
Right.
quote unquote say they have a focus on. Well, that's a lot,
Yeah.
right? That's a lot of expertise needed and so forth. So what we try to do is boil that down to the ever-changing sensible ones, right? So today there are initiatives for life science and healthcare
Right.
in the state. There are initiatives for energy now in the state of South Carolina.
Right.
There are initiatives for supply chain and logistics, manufacturing, ag tech. And
Right.
of course, the underlying, technologies of development around AI and physical AI and the value of all that and how it integrates into all those different sectors
Hmm.
obviously has an interest for us. So it's just not about, AI. It's not about SaaS. It's about developing solutions that, in our opinion, will solve significant problems.
Oh, nice.
And I think that's a key thing, right? So we're very versed in business models that align with B2B or
Right.
B2B to C. And I think that's a fair amount of industry sector coverage that's going on today, right? And
Right.
so you take a look at the manufacturing sector upstate, you take a look at healthcare and so forth that's spread across the state. You take a look at the industries that are in and around Charleston, and we start to see a lot of opportunity that align with the Department of Commerce. So
Right. Right.
hope that helps, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, so you're looking at business to business to consumer.
Hmm.
That covers a lot of ground.
Hmm.
One of the areas I want to ask about that you didn't quite mention, but it's kind of related to that is, Charleston's an international shipping hub. It's a
Right,
harbor and everything, and
right.
in the Charleston metro area or the Lowcountry, kind of all feeds into that. How does that play into what you guys are doing?
Well, it plays into what we're doing in several ways. So one is our ability to work with corporations
Mm,
to co-develop, co-design, launch, do research, add features to their current offerings, and so forth. It just allows us to participate and help those corporations.
nice.
Charleston is the largest port locally here, right? And so
Right.
everything that gets manufactured in upstate that's exported heads south to Charleston, right? And
Right.
basically gets put into a container, gets put on a maritime vessel, and sent out to reach its destination. So there's a lot in there's a lot in that overview. There's a lot that we can apply, technology startups to improving supply chain, improving inventories, improving compliance, improving collection of data, pertinent data around what's being built and what's sold and what's being exported. Things along those lines to improve the overall capability at the port to handle, manage, and report back so that all the entities and all the parties are satisfied.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I know like one of the big initiatives across the United States obviously is kind of centered around this idea of made in America.
Hmm.
And that ties in with trade, obviously international trade and everything.
Hmm.
But if, you have a startup, new companies trying to make something, even if it's in the life sciences, develop something,
Hmm.
are you guys, as sort of part of your group that's part of your venture capital, are you guys helping people, these new startups, get access to these places that can manufacture in the US or talent that can come
Yeah.
and work in these places? How does that kind of work out?
Yeah, so it works in a couple of ways. So first of all, out of our general fund, we'll be making investments in each startup that we accept into our program, right?
Mm,
There's an exchange of capital for equity.
right,
So that's an indicator of our commitment to the startup, right?
right,
Number two is that in and amongst our networks of mentors and their extensive areas of expertise, um, uh, potential investors, potential corporations that they could do business with within
nice.
those networks that are growing right now. that have an interest in supporting Carolina Venture Studio basically, allow us to make introductions.
Mm,
But it also allows us through the application process to understand exactly where they are.
right.
We're anticipating all sorts of different founders or founding teams to apply. Some may come with a single founder with an idea on a piece of paper,
Right.
and others may come with a founding team, an MVP, some revenue.
Right.
So it's really hard for us to predict all that. But our goal is to properly educate those, make the right connections, help them position themselves for success,
Nice.
and once they're launched, put them on a path that will we believe will hopefully lead to a financial exit. It may or may not. It just all depends. But be realistic about where financial exits are today. Majority of them have switched from IPO to
Mm,
acquisition.
right.
And so we'll see how that goes. It may flip back, but the number of IPOs is fewer and fewer these days. So, but our goal is to from our small equity position to be able to capture a small profit from that financial exit. And then our bylaws are written so that we put that money back into other
Okay.
501(c)(3)s, whether they focus on housing, food, education,
Oh, okay.
or infrastructure, environmental conservation, et cetera, et cetera. So we're looking to put that money back to work in support of the community here in communities here in South Carolina.
Wow. Yeah. So you hit my exact next question, which was, since you guys are taking equity and obviously you'll make some money from equity, how does that work with a not for profit? And so that kind of answers that question. You're going to take those and you're going to put it back
Yeah,
in other not for profits, which is awesome. So,
that's correct.
one of the things we love about the businesses and startups and entrepreneurs around here is everybody has this feeling, this culture of a rising tide floats all ships. And
Mhm.
so I love that what you're doing is kind of doing that. Your rising tide will help float a lot of other ships out there in the harbor. So, you know, do you already have like your board and everything set up for your not for profit? Is where are you in the process so people know when to expect to like, hey, I need to go talk to Peter today.
Right. Yeah, so we fundamentally have a website that's set up. We're accepting applications for
Okay.
mentors right now. So there's 30 plus that have indicated an interest ever since we incorporate or made Carolina Venture Studio a South Carolina nonprofit corporation,
Nice.
which happened in the middle of last year, 2025. So we're building out those networks. What's important for us is to have financial coverage.
Right.
So we're fundraising right now, and we're working with business leaders. We're working with donors, philanthropists, and other interested entities that are lining up in support of partnering.
Right.
And on the legal side, on the accounting side, on all sorts of different fronts that can assist from an expertise perspective. So at the end of the day, our goal is to systematically put a technology startup in the right position to launch, right?
Right.
Otherwise, they're just going to flounder and fail.
Right.
So it's more important to us to accomplish that, to take our time. We could be taking 6 months, we could be taking 12 months. It's
Okay.
really hard for us to predict.
Right.
But soon, once we have enough funds to move forward, soon we'll open up the application portal
Okay.
and allow startups to just apply. There's not a lot of heavy, ornery, tough questions. There's some obviously some key ingredients and information that we need to understand. But other than that, and then it's a one-on-one conversation.
Okay.
From a programming perspective, right now it's just our current three partners. We're interviewing additional board members. We're interviewing other partners that can provide access to their networks, and they could be corporations, foundations, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot going on
Yeah.
from that perspective.
Now, I have to ask because, I'm sure somebody's kind of thinking this out there. So is this sort of like, the Shark Tank process? Like, you need to have this polished kind of thing to show off
No.
and you're going to have to kind of fight for money. How do you guys plan on doing this?
Yeah, that's a really good question, right? And so we're obviously looking for a diverse set of entrepreneurs, right? So there are a fair number of entrepreneurs in the United States, not
Right.
the state, but the United States that are underserved and don't have opportunities. So we're not trying to play favorites. We're trying to make ourselves available to those that we believe can be successful,
Okay.
that can put themselves in a position to know and understand what needs to be done, are willing to learn and are willing to be, open-minded, and then let us help them put the pieces together, whatever they may be, technology, product, markets, team,
Nice.
et cetera, right, to get them to revenue and then put them on a realistic path. Um, and not everyone's going to work out, but
Right.
and we can't accept everybody. We just can't at this particular stage. But we're going to start off small and start to grow from there, and then be in a position to obviously, as we expand and grow presence, we'll be expanding, actually our fund, and then from there we'll be able to accept more. So you have to start off small,
Right.
like every startup, right?
Every
So,
startup. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
all right.
So I have to ask, and maybe it's not this simple, but I'm going to ask anyway. Are
Mhm.
there like, a few things that you guys are looking as far as I want to say sort of like a checklist that are indicators that this startup is going to be a success? Are you looking to kind of hit is some things that from your experience and your other folks' experience that you're kind of looking for either these people to come with one or two of these or to grow into this as you kind of go through the process with them?
Yeah. That's an excellent question, and some of those the answer to your question is really hard to be specific.
Right.
We're looking for we'll just call it pre-revenue and pre-seed companies,
Okay.
right? And so everybody has a thought process around what they view as a problem,
Mm,
and then what they view as a solution to solve that problem,
okay.
whatever it may be.
Right.
So it's really hard for us to determine that. We don't have our application doesn't have 40 or 50 questions
Right.
that are really tough and ornery and so forth and so on, right? We're not at that stage yet. So what's important to us is more along the lines of the founder's thought process,
Mm,
his level of passion, how it integrates with his life experiences, whatever they may be,
nice.
and then the desire to support and see his way through to a successful program, to a successful launch out of our program, right? And so, but I can't be specific about
I know.
this or that or whatever. I
Right.
mean, you just don't know. And some of them we may be I don't want to say this. Some of them we may be helping them kind of quote unquote turn on the light
Yeah.
or see the light, and actually and enjoy their development more along the lines of being realistic
Yeah.
instead of being unrealistic and basically thinking that they can quote unquote boil the ocean. So,
Right.
but it's not going to be easy to pick and choose.
Yeah.
But we have to start off small. And when you open yourself up to the internet,
Yeah. Everything floods in. Yes.
everything floods in, right?
Yes.
And so we'll just have to see. We're going to disappoint some people, um, but I think some of the goodness around all that effort will be is that even though they're disappointed, we want to make sure that we can help direct them to a program to become a little more knowledgeable or develop a little bit further,
Right.
and just not think that I'm just going to develop a better toilet paper
Right.
roller,
Yeah. Yeah.
something that's
Well,
commonplace
yeah, and
today.
that's exactly where I was going with the next question. It's like, how big a problem are you guys sort of looking for an entrepreneur to kind of tackle?
Mhm.
Is it the problem of I want to bring an ice cream parlor to my community because we don't have one, or is it, hey, I want to help get humankind to Mars.
Hmm.
Where
Right.
where in
Yeah.
between are
Yeah.
we?
And there's lots of answers to that question
Yeah,
across that wide spectrum, right? So first thing is that we're focused on technology startups,
right.
right? Not brick and mortar and retail business. I
Perfect.
mean, I'll just be honest with you,
Yep,
right?
yep. That's good.
So I just take a look at our backyard here, my backyard here in the PD region, right?
Yeah,
The economy basically runs on and thrives on tourism,
yeah,
period. There
yeah.
are some technology companies here. HTC is one, DC Blocks is another, but although they're based in Georgia. And there are a few that here, there, and everywhere. But the reality is that this part of the state needs, for example, diversity, economic diversity, right?
Right,
And so I take a look at how to encourage and how to help and how to drive and how to satisfy people's needs. But when
nice.
you come down to problems being solved, I mean, that's a tough question to answer. I could sit here and say, well, you got to be able to solve a real world problem.
Right. What's
Okay,
that?
and not always true, right?
Yeah.
And we've seen a lot of successes start with a niche kind of focus
Right.
at solving a niche problem that grow into being more holistic.
Right.
And so it's really hard to pinpoint um, and not get stuck with being labeled as you got to have a real world problem.
Right.
So I hope that gives the right messaging.
No, no, I think that's what people want to know. It's like, okay, this is about coming and talking to Peter and Carolina Venture Studio, excuse me, not adventure. It will be an adventure for you.
Hmm. Yeah.
and and saying, hey, here's my idea. Here's what I think it will address. And
Hmm.
here's my plan on how to get there. And then you guys
Hmm.
can have a conversation about, okay,
Right.
how realistic is that? What do you need to actually be able to do that? All those
Right.
kinds of great questions like that.
Right, right. Yeah, so it's just more than it's going to be way more than just answering questions on an application,
Right.
right? But you have to have some fundamentals to be able to put together the information that we request, right? And
Yeah.
so some of that information can be you can educate yourself on the internet.
Yeah.
You can educate yourself in local programs, whether you want to call them, continuing your education or an accelerator or an incubator, things
Right.
along those lines. But there's some basic education that's available. All of that, from my perspective, is for free,
Yeah.
right? And so that can help you align yourself and put yourself in a best suitable position to complete the application. And then I think from there is you just have to look, to look forward to a follow-up conversation and see how all of this, melts together, right? And so there's lots of ingredients that are going to be key to us, and some of them are intellectual way you're
Right.
approaching solving the problem, and some are your level of emotion and um, persuasiveness and aggressiveness to solve the problem and be passionate about it. Some
That's
of it is
cool.
that too.
Yeah,
So,
that's really cool. Yeah, because this, none of this is easy for sure.
well, if it was easy, everybody would be doing it.
Right.
Right, right.
So that leads me to the key question.
Mm.
What advice would you have for people out there in the PD and Low Country area that are thinking about becoming entrepreneurs or just started out their journey? What would you
Hmm.
tell them? You've got 30 plus years of seeing everything
Yeah,
under the sun. Where
right,
where where would you tell them to kind of think and start first?
right. So the sensible first starts just based upon my experiences of other startups in different stages that I've seen is really start from the bottom, right?
Hmm.
Take your idea to solve a specific problem and venture out into the world and try to find buyers for that solution.
Hmm.
They're the key to you understanding whether you can successfully build not only a business, but I like to call it a profitable business.
Hmm.
Nobody wants to do a startup and have it grow and not be profitable,
Right.
right? And I've talked to some that have been around for, 5+ years and still haven't been profitable. So, all it lends itself is to doing the sensible, strategic things up front, right?
Right.
Talk to buyers. Find out whether what you're working on makes sense or not. Don't talk to your friends and family because they'll just tell you,
Yeah.
we love you, you're great,
You're
don't
great.
worry
Keep
about it.
doing
You're
it.
going to be
Yeah.
successful, go for it.
Yeah.
Talk to the real buyer,
Yeah.
right? And not your mothers and your brothers and your sisters and your aunts and uncles, but talk to the real buyers and get a sense, right? And that should give you, that should give you a good feeling. And that feeling is more along the lines of a gut feeling that says it makes sense to move forward. So
Right.
be strategic first and then be tactical.
Oh,
So
nice.
many founders just go, "Oh, I understand what the problem is," and then go off and be tactical and build something.
Right.
Whereas you could be wasting your time, you could not be wasting your time. I can give you examples of some that have rushed in and been wildly successful, and others that have, majority of them that rush in and end up not being successful at all. So
Right.
I think you need to step back and be more strategic and less tactical in the very beginning. So,
That's nice. That's great
mhm,
advice. I really appreciate that, Peter. I think
mm,
that'll resonate with a lot of people. It's like, in a sense, like do your homework. It's
mhm,
kind of do your
mhm.
homeworve before you
Yeah,
launch out there.
right.
And
And
I love
and
that.
in my years of education, I was not good at homework. So, so and I've, a lot of lessons from my parents,
Yeah,
from the school of hard knock lessons
yeah,
and so forth and so on. But, a lot of it at the end of the day does resonate,
yeah.
right? And nobody wants to start a business that's going to fail,
Right,
right?
right.
But you're gonna fail in different stages and so forth. But it's how you recover from that and realign yourself and so forth and so on. But I think that the end goal is you want to build a profitable business,
Right,
and profitable business are the ones that have success, financially, short term, medium term, long term, however that plays out.
right.
Nobody has a crystal ball. I don't have a crystal ball. Institutional investors don't have a crystal ball, even though they tell you they do.
Yeah, they think
But
they
they
do.
they want a good snapshot of what you're going to do for the next 12 months.
Right.
So just think of it of being strategic like that.
Nice, nice. Well, Peter, this has been wonderful. I really appreciate your time and
Mm-hmm.
sharing your advice. And as you sign up your startups and stuff like that, tell them to come on the podcast. Tell
Yeah.
us about their journey because I'm sure everybody would love to hear what's going on. So
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a journey, right? This is we're not looking for instant success. We're looking to build momentum around this nonprofit model. And we think hopefully in the next 3 to 5 years, it'll start to bear some successful fruit and build some momentum around, the value of putting money and donating and being philanthropic and spending your time and so forth and putting those efforts together to help others. And I
nice,
think that will lend itself in the long run. So.
nice. Well, thank you so much, and it's been a pleasure talking with you today. That's a wrap for this episode of the Lowcountry Revolutionaries. Thanks for joining us as we celebrate the fearless entrepreneurs making wave in Charleston's Chucktown Startups community. I'm Bill Billotte, and it's been an honor to share these inspiring stories with you. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs a spark of Lowcountry innovation. Until next time, keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible.